Hey everybody, this is Greg Petix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the Petixonian Institute of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at Tarzan of the Apes by Burne Hogarth. Burne Hogarth, probably one of the finest artists to come out of the comic strip field. He took over Tarzan, I believe in the 40s, from maybe even the late 30s, from Hal Foster. And they were really worried about how how it would seem, because everyone loved Hal Foster. But Burne Hogarth blazed this new trail, this new style, and people, some arguably liked it more. And he did that till like 1950. And in the 50s, he was one of the co-founders of the School of Visual Arts. And he became an educator for decades. Every now and then would do some art, but for the most part was running the school. But in 1972, Watson Guptill, the art book publisher, they said, "Hey, Burne, man, get back in the saddle." He had just left the school in the early 70s. Some say he got kicked out. I don't know. It's he said, she said. Well, probably he said. But, and they convinced him, as like, "Hey, do you want to do a new Tarzan book?" And Burne Hogarth never got to adapt the original Tarzan book in the comic strip. Hal Foster did that in 1929. So it's his chance to adapt the very first Tarzan book by Edgar Rice Burroughs. And as we can see by this cover, Burne Hogarth, man, he can draw. He was known for his art books, dynamic anatomy, dynamic everything, dynamic folding, dynamic shading, dynamic musculature. He had his very unique way of drawing, very classical, but also took in a lot of things from the fine arts and incorporated it into his cartooning. This is just, we're going to see this throughout the book. This is very endemic of almost every page of this book. Look at these trees he draws. They're just like these psychedelic colored, amazingly sinewy, almost fantastical trees. Excuse me. So, yeah, this is a visual treat, I gotta say. So let's line this up. Okay. We have a really nice introduction by Maurice Horn, one of the earliest comic book historians, and very informative. Tells us all about Burne Hogarth's life and his career. Here's one of his early Tarzans. It's actually his very first one that he signed. He's drawing like Hal Foster. The Syndicate didn't want an abrupt change in the art style. But within 2 years, he's already becoming Burne Hogarth, drawing in his own inimitable style. Some more nice early Tarzan. Yeah, just panels like this, the body in motion, he's really good at. Hence the dynamic art books. This is from his comic strip, Drago. A very short-lived comic he tried to write and draw after Tarzan. So these are from his art books, his how-to drawing books. He did many of them. And he also was kind of like, did these like I guess you could call them fine art. Not in the sense of the 20th century. He was never abstract. He was an illustrator. But it definitely has this very old master style. He was looking at Goya and all these great old artists. Really nice stuff. I like this bowl. Yeah, he's had many, even at this time in 1972, he'd already had some museum shows, which for a cartoonist, that was pretty unheard of. He was revered in France. They thought he was the shit because they respect comic strip art. But also he was definitely a cut above your average cartoonist, as far as incorporating fine art things into his cartooning. A little biography of Edgar Rice Burroughs, and here we go. Look at this. In 1972, America had no graphic novels. We had no beautiful, full-color, original works. This is... Can you imagine, like, 1972, what's your choice? Some, like, black and white undergrounds, maybe, at the best. Marvel, DC stuff. printed on crappy newsprint, and then you find this in the bookstore. It'll blow your mind. So it pretty faithfully adapts the story of Tarzan. You probably all know the story of Tarzan, Lord and Lady Greystoke, and they're sailing on this ship. They book passage. There's a mutiny. The captain's a real bastard. I forgot how much of the book takes place before they even get to Africa. This is a pretty interesting story of just a mutiny and, you know, hijinks on the high seas. Really nice art. Just totally slick paper. You know, this was an art book publisher for the most part, Wopson Guptill, and so they're treating it just like they would a nice art book, which people didn't do with comics back then, as you can imagine. So the main mutineer, he protects them. Once the crew has their mutiny, they're just like, let's kill those guys too. And he's like, no, he saved me earlier, because earlier on, he saved the main mutineer's life from the captain, the brutal captain. So but he can't really keep him on. So he says, the best I can do for you, I'm going to leave you with this food and supplies, and I'm going to drop you off in this remote part of Africa, just, the jungle. And so that's what they do. Like I said, we're going to see a lot of this kind of stuff. Just like amazing LSD drenched trees. I couldn't find any credits on the internet. I think he might have done the lettering, because it looks like his old comic strip lettering. But then again, he might have had an assistant do that all these years, so I don't know. And I don't know if he does the coloring. But whoever does definitely has an eye. And to be honest, I have a feeling it's him, because I can't even think of another comic book colorist who would even think to color this way. Only Burne Hogarth would. So they land on this remote area, and the husband is like, chin up, honey, to his wife. We can survive. We got all these supplies. We're going to build a tree house so the animals can't get us. Look at this lush foliage. Just amazing. It's a very, dangerous life they live. There's jungle cats trying to kill them every night. And all kinds of nasty creatures. Nasty animals are trying to kill him. So he finally builds a real house for themselves. Builds a little cabin. And they're doing pretty good. And then one day this a big ape attacks him. And he runs back to the house, but he doesn't have time to get in the house and bolt the door behind him. So he's got to fight him with his axe. And he knows he's going to lose. He's like, fuck, I'm dead. But the wife comes out with the gun and shoots the ape. But, apes are hard to kill. So the ape turns around. She does save her husband's life. But then he attacks the wife. The ape dies from the gunshot wound. He takes her back to the house. Look at this fucking page. It's insane. Look at the colors. And oh, my God. I don't think any tree has ever looked like this in the history of trees. But I'm glad Burne Hogarth drew it for our edification, because it's quite beautiful. And so they have a little baby. And things are going pretty good. And every night they read. He's got all these picture books for when the kid's older. And he writes in his diary. And so basically, it's pretty uneventful, their life, other than the apes constantly try to fuck with them. Every time he goes out to forage, he's got to deal with these apes. He's always got to be on his guard. So then, a year after the baby is born, she falls ill, the wife, and she dies. And it breaks John Greystoke. It breaks him mentally. He's just like, what am I going to do? How am I going to raise a baby? The baby's still nursing, for God's sakes. So now we cut away to Kerchak. He's the bull ape, leader of a tribe of apes. And he's just a big bastard. Sometimes he just gets angry and just starts running around trying to kill his fellow apes. He's just a big bully. Every now and then he just gets enraged, freaks out. So one day he's doing that. Everyone's just trying to avoid him, running to the trees. Kala, a female ape who has a young baby ape, she's taken to the trees to escape him. And she's almost too late. He almost gets her. But because she's concentrating so much on escaping his grasp, she drops her own little baby. And the baby falls like 30 feet and is smashed against the ground and dead. Kerchak calms down all of a sudden. And everyone's just like, oh, well, wait till next time until he does it again. I hope you're watching this on a big computer screen, because just almost every panel on this is pretty luscious. So Kerchak, he was the one, I guess, who he saw that cabin earlier when there was that fight, and he's always wanting to come back and see what's up with it. So he takes the whole tribe. He's like, let's do a little raid on this place. And he actually remembers that he had the boomstick, the gun. He's like, he wanted to see that thing again. He doesn't know what it is, but, it's intriguing. The door is wide open when he gets there. This guy's the father's so broken. He's just like, he doesn't care. He's just passed out on his desk. He probably hasn't even gone to bed in days. And he does wake up, though, just in time to see Kerchak attacking him. And Kerchak makes short work of him, murders him. And then he's going to kill the baby, but before he can, Kala, she's been carrying around her dead baby this whole time in mourning. And so she grabs the baby out of the crib and throws her dead monkey baby in the crib. And then she runs fast enough and gets in a high tree. So Kerchak doesn't really care because he finds the boomstick. And he's trying to, it's kind of funny, like showing this dumb ape trying to figure out a gun. And it goes off and it terrifies them all. They run away. And as they run away, the gun catches the latch on the door and locks the door behind them. So about an hour later, they get their courage back up. And they say, okay, let's go back to that place. Now they can't get in. The windows are thatched so well. It's almost like bars. They can't get down the chimney. So they give up after a while. When they get back to like their little encampment, Kala is just like, won't let anyone near her new baby, her new hairless baby. And she's very protective. So we have a montage here. The years go by and Kala raises little Tarzan as his own. In their language, in the ape language, Tarzan means white skin. And of course, she's wondering why he's so weak and it takes him so long to learn things. And she's had him for a year. He still doesn't know how to climb. Most apes can, they're a month or two old and they're already climbing around. But her husband doesn't like it. Her husband doesn't like Tarzan at all. He's always just like, let's just kill the little fucker. He's slowing us. He can't contribute to the tribe. He's always going to be like this. He's going to be an idiot. And she won't hear of it. But then as he gets to a certain age, he's 10 years old, and they do realize he does have talents that they don't have. He's already kind of smarter than they are. Clever. He's pretty clever. And he also is very nimble because he's just grown up living like an ape. So he's pretty strong. He's fucking strong as hell for a human. He's not strong as an ape. But I like this little... Burne Hogarth, here's an example. He does a lot of this where in the same figure, you'll see, I guess to imply, follow through of motion. It looked like he has 4 legs or something, right? Mad Magazine made a funny parody of this when they parodied Tarzan in the 50s. They parodied Burne Hogarth's art. And sometimes Tarzan would have 6 legs and 6 arms. And it was kind of a thing that only Burne Hogarth did. I've never seen it before. I gotta say, sometimes it doesn't work. It does, look at this. I'm sorry, that just looks like he has 4 legs. It doesn't look like the motion is more smooth or fluid. But I guess he liked it. So he's growing up. He's learning all these tricks of the trade. And he's starting to get an identity crisis. He finally realizes at a certain age he's not like everyone else. He's kind of ashamed of his hairless body. And one day he finally sees himself in a pool of water and he's shocked. He's like, oh my God, I'm so ugly compared to all my my fellow apes. He's comparing his faces and he's kind of just feels really less than. So while he's distracted by looking at his face, Sabu shows up. Sabu is what they call the jungle cat. I'm not sure which kind of jungle cat that is. Is that I think it's a she lion, yeah. Or a lady lion, as they prefer to be called. And Sabu attacks, kills one of his cousins, and Tarzan jumps in the water to escape him. He doesn't know how to swim, though, but he figures it out. Just like some kids, you throw them in the water, they'll just start dog paddling. So pretty soon, anytime there's a body of water, Tarzan is jumping in it. And all the other apes think he's crazy. They don't like going in the water. He loves swimming, and he gets really good. So the years pass by. Tarzan loves Kala as much as he would have his natural mother if she had lived. It's the same bond. He adores her, you know. Kala just takes care of him. Just lives her life for him. She's a great mother. So that father, Tublat, that's Kala's mate, he's always trying to fuck with Tarzan. He hates his guts. But Tarzan's too big for that now. So Tarzan spends his days taunting him, playing practical jokes on him. Tarzan figures out how to make rope out of taking vines and twisting them together in long grasses. And he's learning how to snare people, and he loves to do it on Tublat. Every day Tublat's got to look over his shoulder because Tarzan's going to fuck with him. Grab him by the neck and pull him up. He's kind of the laughingstock of the tribe. Once again, look at these crazy colors. Yellow, red, green, blue. A blue branch. But it all works. So one day, Tarzan finds his father's cottage. His father and mother's cottage. He figures out how to do the latch. And he finds the skeleton of his mother and father, having no idea that that's who they are. And he sees the little baby ape skeleton. He finds a knife and cuts himself on it, but then he realizes, wow, this thing's great. I can totally chop this table to bits. It's like having my own tooth, my own claw. But then this is the part that's fascinating. This is my favorite part of the original Edgar Rice Burroughs book. Even if you don't like, pulp adventure. The chapter where he teaches himself how to read, even though he doesn't even know what reading is, the concept, is fascinating. Because he finds these picture books, and he loves looking at the pictures. But he constantly is so thinking about, what the hell are these little bugs? He calls letters bugs. He thinks they're little bugs. In fact, he tries to grab them and eat them at first. And he's like, no, they're on the page. What the hell are they? Why are these little bugs here? And so this takes months and years. He he breaks the code. He has a breakthrough one day and realizes, oh, here's a picture of a boy, and here's these little bugs that look like a B-O-Y, and then he sees them again. So over the course of years, he actually teaches himself how to read. And he even learns how to write, too, eventually. He scrawls in the dirt when he's not near the cabin. So one day he finds a gorilla. The gorillas are the mortal enemies of the apes. And they're scary as fuck. They're stronger than the apes. But he's got his new long tooth, his knife. So they have this bloody, bloody fight. But Tarzan wins because of his knife. The tribe is pretty close by. They hear the gorillas, war cry. And Kala speeds as fast as she can through the trees to see what's going on. Because Tarzan's missing. She figures, oh my God, Tarzan's maybe getting killed by a gorilla. See, look at this. Once again, he's doing that technique. I'm sorry, that just looks like this guy has 3 legs. I don't really see the motion. So Tarzan's almost dead. He's got all these wounds. Kala comes and brings him back to where they live. So for like I think it's like a month or two, she licks his wounds. She brings him water, and he gets better. She brings him back from the brink of death. That's the end of book 1. So Tarzan's a little older. Whenever they're close, because these apes kind of are like nomads, they travel around this like 100-mile radius area in Africa. He loves to go back to the cabin. And, you know, he's looking for more tools, like maybe another knife or something. But he can't help but be drawn to these books. They're fascinating to him. And here's the montage where we see a lot of time has passed, where he's figuring out how to read. He realizes they're not bugs. He realizes that the pictures match the words. Yeah, Edgar Burke spends a lot of time to this, learning how to read. And I gotta say, it's fascinating. It's my favorite chapter in the book by far. I mean, I like high adventure stuff like that, you know. But man, it's a really good chapter. I recommend just reading that if you're into linguistics or childhood education even. Look at that. It's fucking gorgeous. This is their ritual of the dum-dum. And the apes capture an enemy ape or a gorilla maybe. And they kind of have a ritual sacrifice of him. It's almost like a religious ceremony that the apes do. And Tarzan's part of it. So finally we have a showdown between Tarzan's foster dad, I guess, and Tarzan. And Tublat's going nuts. He's so angry at Tarzan and he can't reach him. He just starts attacking other people in his tribe. He even starts attacking Kala, his own wife. He's got a red rage. He's just going to murder anyone he grabs his hands on. So Tarzan comes down and confronts him. And with his knife, he wins. Here's another example of Burne Hogarth's. Look, Tarzan has 3 legs and 2 torsos. I guess that works for some people. I think it's kind of silly. So that day, Tarzan basically is, makes this oath, basically. It says, I am Tarzan. I am a great killer. Give me your respect. So Tarzan realizes he's actually going to hunt Sabu. The apes never thought of hunting the jungle cats. They just ran in fear for them. But, Tarzan's got his snare skills down. He's got his ropes. And he's really good at snaring. He's like, maybe I could snare Sabu and get his skin. Because then I wouldn't be so ashamed of being naked all the time. Oh, man, look at that page. That's just a phantasmagoria of a visual delight. So yeah, time's passing. He's practicing on a warthog, his lassoing skills. He realizes that animals that big can pull you off the tree. So when he finally confronts Sabu, when he's really serious about getting him, this time he ties the vine to the tree. And this is just a really some fun action. Lion's trying to get away, he flips himself over. And but what he didn't realize is that they got really sharp teeth, and jungle cats aren't that dumb. He quickly bites through the thing and runs away. But Tarzan still can't resist throwing like a piece of ripe fruit at his head. Tarzan's like a kind of a little jerk. He's always taunting people and fucking with them. He's like a little bratty kid, even though he's much older now. Another beautiful, all these panels. So one day he sees his first humans. He sees some Africans. And I think they're escaping another tribe. They just had a battle. And they build this city, their own little town, kind of near the ape territory. Tarzan's fascinated. This is the first time he's ever seen someone who wasn't an ape. Or, I'm sorry, other than the animals in the jungle. It's the first time he's seen a human. So he's following this one guy. He's the prince of this place. And this guy's on a hunt. And then so later on, though, Tarzan's back with hanging out with his apes. And the prince shows up and sees Cilla. And he tries to spear her. It's a glancing blow, though, so it doesn't kill her. But then he takes out his bow and arrow, and he's got poisoned arrows. And that kills Cilla. And then he runs off like a frightened antelope. So the apes come upon the scene, and Tarzan is just bereft. He really, really loved Cilla. As far as he knows, it's his mother. And she was his mother. Look at this craziness. I think Tarzan's got 6 legs here. No, just 4. So he's on the prowl. He's going to follow this guy, this prince. And, he doesn't kill him just yet. He kind of wants to observe him more. He's fascinated by his bow and arrow. He sees him kill a few animals with it. And he's hot in his heels. And so one night, the guy goes to sleep in a high tree branch. And Tarzan sneaks up and takes his bow and arrow. So the prince is like, oh shit, I got no weapons except for my knife. I gotta make it through the jungle, so I'm just gonna run home as fast as I can. And Tarzan follows him. He stashes the bow and arrow somewhere. So he snares the prince, Tarzan does, and he kills him. Gets revenge for his mom. He does it very coolly and dispassionately. He's a stone cold killer from growing up in the jungle. So Tarzan goes to the village. Look at that tree again. Craziness. And he's observing them. He wants to see what the hell's going on. He realizes that this old woman is making the poison arrows, making the poison and dipping the arrows in them. Because he realized he wants more arrows. He doesn't know how to make them. He has no idea. And right around that time, they find the dead prince outside the village. And all the warriors come out, loaded for bear. Tarzan sneaks to the village during the distraction and goes into this, it looks like the main hut. It's like the royal palace of this village. And he kind of plays this weird little prank. There's all these skulls around and all these various stuff, and he makes this almost like a weird little art sculpture to spook them, because he knows that they'll be like, how the hell did it get like this? So he runs away because they're coming back to the village. He grabs as many arrows as he can, and it does freak the people out. They go into that little hut and they're like, what the hell? Was this the devil? Demons? They don't know what the hell's going on. And goes back to his tribe, tells them, kind of brags about his exploits. He's pretty proud of himself. Killing Cilla's killer. And for stealing the arrows. The apes don't really get a lot of things he talks about. Apes don't have much of a vocabulary. So it's kind of frustrating for him. It's hard for him to communicate with them. They're dummies. So once again, he goes back to check on the villagers. And I guess they're cannibals. They're going to eat this guy. And Tarzan comes down and throws a skull from the sky. I don't even think they see him. They just see a skull fly out of the sky and they're freaked out. Look at that. Just the body there. That's some dynamic shit. That's what Burne Hogarth was known for. That's really just exciting pose. So Tarzan now has his poison bow and arrows, and he's like, I can finally kill Sabu. I don't need that rope. And Sabu puts up quite a fight, but Tarzan wins. Shoots him right in the eye at one point. He skins Sabu, the lioness, and takes it back to the tribe. Brags once again. Basically, he's pretty full of himself at this point. He's just like, I'm the strongest one in the tribe. And he's looking right at Kerchak as he says that, the leader. And he's just completely fearless of Kerchak's wrath because that guy just freaks out at the drop of a hat. So Kerchak's had enough. And once again, he just starts grabbing any ape near him and killing them in his rage instead of just going for Tarzan. But finally, you know, he's like coming for Tarzan. Tarzan comes down to meet him. He's got his knife. He could have just shot him with bows and arrows, but I think Tarzan wants to meet him mano a mano. And it's this epic battle. This guy's way stronger than Tarzan, but Tarzan's faster. And he's smarter. It's a really great epic battle. Great action scene. Tarzan's got the knife all the way up to the hilt in his chest, but he just won't die. And finally, he gives up the ghost. Kercha, or however you say his name. And Tarzan does his mighty cry of victory. And now he's the leader of the... He's the king of the apes. And that's it. Little bio of Burne Hogarth, little picture. And these are just some panels from inside. So I highly recommend this book. It seems like you find it in old bookstores all the time. You're never going to find this in a comic book store. Maybe you will if you have a really good comic book store. But it turns up in old bookstores. And it's usually a little pricey. Because, you know, it was kind of a unique book. Full color. From 1972. In 1976, he did Jungle Tales of Tarzan, adapting the second book by Edgar Rice Burroughs. I wish I had that. I do not have that. But as soon as I do find a copy, I will show it off on this channel so I can share it with you. But yeah, that's it. I hope you like this as much as I do. This is just a feast for the eyes. And I guess I'll just see you next time at the Petixonian Institute of Comic Book Studies.